Okay, welcome to Lab 8 on production deployment. In this lab, we're going to learn some techniques around deploying applications in production. So we're going to manage an application deployment using an application install directory and a deployment plan. And then we're going to perform a zero downtime upgrade by specifying and versioning our deployments. So we're going to be working with the main web app application like we did in the last lesson. And we're actually going to version this application using a manifest file as well as generating a deployment plan. So WebLogic comes with a plan generator program that allows you to generate a very basic deployment plan if one wasn't provided for you. So let's go ahead and start with opening up the terminal window. We are going to generate a deployment plan for the main web app. We first want to create the application installation directory. So in section 1 of the lab, let's go ahead and create the directories to support this. So under lab home, applications, I want to create a directory called export. And within export, I want to create the application install directory for the main web app. But I'm going to include the version identifier in the directory name. This will allow me to have multiple application installation directories for each version of the main web app. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's go ahead and create a versioned application directory. So I'm going to do main web app underscore 1.0. And within my application install directory, I need 2 additional directories. And those are app for holding the deployment archive and the plan directory for holding the deployment plan. So your environment should look similar to mine. So under lab home, we have the applications directory, which is the application home or application root. And then I've created an export directory. And underneath export is the versioned main web app installation directory. So now what we need to do is copy over the exploded archive into the app directory. So I'm going to do a recursive copy, and if you recall, the main web app is located under application root. In the WL server directory, examples, build, and main web app. Make sure you leave off the trailing slash. Go ahead and I got to specify the location, which is the app directory, and hit enter. So in my app directory, I should have the main web app folder, which I do. So now in order to run the plan generator, I need to source the WebLogic environment script again to set my class path. So we did this in the previous lab. So go ahead and source this environment script, which is located under Oracle Home. WL server bin set WLS env.sh. Go ahead and hit enter. So my environment is now set. Now to run the plan generator, which is a Java program, type Java WebLogic.plan generator. And the parameters for this are really simple. It only takes one parameter, and it's the root of the application installation directory. So that parameter is -root, and then the fully qualified path to the application root. So U01, Udemy, applications, export, main web app 1.0. Go ahead and hit enter. So what plan generator is it's looking at the deployment descriptors for the application and generating a plan based on what it finds in the deployment descriptor. So as you can see here, it saved the configuration for the application main web app. So it's all done. And above that, you can see where it saved the plan. It saved it in our plan directory, plan.xml. So let's go ahead and back up and go down into the plan subdirectory and view the plan.xml. This is your deployment plan. So I know for a fact, and I didn't show this to you in a previous step, but main web app defines a security policy on a servlet. So what that means is that in the deployment descriptors for this application, someone has defined a security model that protects the shutdown servlet. So this main web application actually has a button on the home page that allows you to shut down the admin server. To prevent anyone from having access to that, in the deployment descriptor is a role defined to protect that servlet. And so this generated deployment plan actually contains that assignment, that security policy, and you can override that policy using the deployment plan. And so here's your deployment plan that was generated by the plan generator for our main web app. So you can see in here how this is broken down. We have variable definitions, and these defines the name of a variable and its value. And these variables will be used further down in the deployment plan. So if you want to override a value, you would just modify this value here, and that variable substitution occurs down here. So you can see we have a variable assignment, and we are assigning this variable, this servlet descriptor shutdown servlet name, to this assignment, and we're using XPath to do the substitution. So when you deploy this using the admin console, you'll get a visual representation of this file, and it's much easier to work with. So let's go ahead and quit out of here. Now what we're going to do is actually deploy this application using the installation directory. So go ahead and start your admin server first and foremost. Now, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start the admin server for another WebLogic domain. So if you recall, WebLogic came with 3 example domains. There was the medrec Spring, and the WL server domain. So we're going to work with the WL server domain. And so that's located under our domain root. And there should be a directory in here called WL server. So let's go in here. And in the bin directory, oh, by the way, make sure that any other servers that you had previously running have been shut down. So go ahead and run the start weblogic.sh just like you've done before with the demo domain and hit enter. Okay, so you see this server state change to running message. The admin server for this WL server domain is running. Note the listening address and port number, and the one I'm looking for are these right here, this default 3 and default down here. So I can either log in using the local host 7001, or I can log in using the IP address of my machine. So if you recall, when we installed WebLogic and we specified the examples to be created using the Quick Start wizard, we just accepted all the defaults. And so the defaults were localhost for the listen address and 7001 for the listen port. So when you start up this admin server, it will launch your browser if you're and launch the main web app application. So you can see here, here's the main web app. You've seen this before. We deployed it to our demo domain. Well, now it's in our WL server domain. So let's go ahead and log into the admin console. Because in order to deploy the main web app using the app install directory, we need to remove the main web app because it's already deployed. Okay, so go to deployments, and you'll see here in this domain that there are many deployments. So go ahead and find the main web app application. Oh, here's a neat little tip. So see these showing 1 to 10 of 34 here. We'd have to keep hitting next until we found the main web app. I don't care for paging through small tables to find that application. So go ahead and click on the customize this table. and you'll see the number of rows displayed per page is set to 10. Go ahead and set it to 1,000 and hit apply. And now I've got all the deployments on one page. Okay, so check the box next to the main web app and scroll down to the bottom and click the delete button. Okay, so you'll see the confirmation message that the deployment was deleted. Now we're going to reinstall this application using the install directory. So go ahead and click install. And now you want to navigate to your app install directory. So if you recall, that was under the application root. So for me, it was U01 Udemy. Then click on applications, then export. And here is our application install directory, main web app _1.0. So check the radio button and click next. Click next again. And here, so on this optional settings page, accept all the defaults and click next. And then click finish. Okay, so we get that annoying little pop-up again for the main web application, but at least that confirms that we did deploy the application using the app install directory. So switch back to the admin console. Now you can take a look on the overview page that we now have a deployment plan defined for this application. You can see the path here. So we didn't do anything with the deployment plan. We didn't override anything, so it's not very exciting. We're using the default values that are defined in the deployment descriptor. So let's go ahead and change that. So let's go ahead and update this deployment plan using the admin console. So on this page, click on the deployment plan tab, and you should see two sub-tabs here, tuning parameters and resource dependencies. And there's nothing defined for either of these tabs. So let's go ahead and change that. So click on the configuration tab. And what we're going to do is we are going to change the session timeout value in seconds from 3,600 seconds to 600 seconds. So go ahead and click save. And then let's go ahead and update this application so we can see the changes within our deployment plan. So click on deployments, locate the main web app again and check the checkbox, and click update. And since we haven't versioned this application yet, we want to go with the default selection here. We're going to redeploy this application using the deployment files. So go ahead and click next. And then click finish. Oh, you'll note that WebLogic is telling us that this is not a versioned application. So the update is going to occur immediately. All right, so we got that annoying pop-up again for the main web app. Okay, so now that we've updated our application using the in-place redeployment, let's go ahead and take a look at the deployment plan on the file system to see what it looks like now. So go ahead and open up your terminal window and take a look at the contents of the deployment plan this time. So you can see here under variable definition that we've defined a variable named session descriptor timeout seconds. So if you recall, we changed the value of this from 3,600 to 600. And so this is where the variable is defined. Now, if we scroll down further under the module override section, there should be a variable assignment using this timeout value. And you can see that here. So what WebLogic will do, when WebLogic deploys this application using the deployment plan, it will override the default timeout seconds value with the one that we've got defined in our plan. So this example just covered the timeout seconds, parameter, but you can use this to override just about any parameter that's defined in the WebLogic deployment descriptor. It's perfect for decoupling an environment-specific configuration from the application source files itself. So that way you're not cracking open archive files to make changes and then redeploying them, or building multiple archive files for each of your environments.